They say Marietta is the start of it all, the first organized settlement in the Northwest Territory, established in 1788. Marietta is steeped in history, with monuments, museums, and churches, and also ancient Native American earthworks among the many sights to see. Marietta is the county seat of Washington County, which is located in southeast Ohio, and it sits on two rivers, the Muskingum River and the Ohio River. And in September, they have the Ohio Sternwheel Festival you may want to visit. Marietta College was established in 1835 in Marietta, and downtown is very viable, lots of shops to visit, so come on down to Marietta. We have a mayor-council form of government. We have 4 wards, which are represented by council people. We have 3 at-large council people, which represent the entire cities of Marietta. And we also have a council president. The council meets at the Armory on the 1st and 3rd Thursdays of the month, and that's a chance for the public to come in and speak to the council.
Hello, my name is Joyce Robinson. I'm here with the City Councilman Bret Allphin, and we're going to talk about his reason for running for City Council in Marietta, Ohio. And I am part of a project called Living Democracy, Engaging Citizens, and our goal is to engage citizens and increase their knowledge of municipal government and how it works. So, Mr. Allphin?
Hey there.
He's my neighbor. I have a list of questions here that I'd like to ask you.
Sure.
Beginning with, what made you decide to run for City Council? And what are your plans for the future?
Is that all?
Yes.
So, well, thanks for doing this. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Very happy to say yes.
So, I spent a 20-year career working for local governments here in southeastern Ohio at Ohio Regional Council. And our board, that organization, is made up of county commissioners and mayors, township trustees, and private business individuals across southeast Ohio. And so over that 20 years, I really got to see, what local government looks like up close. And it was really interesting to me, and I always enjoyed working with those elected officials, and I thought, even as early as I think I was 21 or 22 when I started that job, I thought maybe I would like to do that someday. And so working in such a public way, I wasn't able to run or hold office during that time.
Okay.
And so I always thought that was out there for me whenever my time at Buckeye Hills was over. And the pandemic came, and I just kind of rethought my whole career, and I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. And so I took an opportunity to work as a consultant with a local consulting firm, and that provided me the opportunity to take what was way out there in the future for local politics and do it right now. So I ran for city council in, that would have been the summer of 21. In the fall of 21, got elected, and that was how it happened. So I just came from just a close working relationship with other public officials in the past. And what's in the future for me? I'm going to keep doing city council as long as the nice folks of the Second Ward want to have me. I've been really happy to do it. It's been fun. It's been challenging, but overall I've enjoyed the experience, and I think I'm going to keep going with it.
Oh, good. Now, how long is one term?
One term is 2 years.
Which to me is not long enough. You just get your feet wet when you have to run for re-election.
Sure.
4 years.
It's not very long. And it feels like you get 1 year of service, and then the second year, which we're in right now, you start doing the petitions again and collecting the signatures and doing all those things again. So yeah, it's a sprint sometimes.
A sprint, yes, I agree with that. What did you have to do to get on the ballot to be a run for city council?
Great question. So to get on the ballot, you have to get signatures of voters for the area that you're running for. So if you're running for a ward councilman, you're a party candidate, you have to get 25 signatures of whichever party, registered voters for whichever party you're intending to represent in the area that you want to represent. If you're running as an independent or a third party, I think it's 5% of the voters in that area at the last governor's election. And it's a different number, but it probably comes out to be roughly the same. So you get 25 signatures to get on the ballot, and then once you're on the ballot, if there is a contested race and there's other candidates running from your party, you would participate in the primary, which is in May. And then if you are the successful candidate in the primary, you make your way out to the general ballot in November of the election year.
Would you consider your time on council to be a full-time or part-time commitment?
It's a part-time, less than part-time job, but it is a full-time commitment. It never really, and much to maybe my wife's chagrin or my kids' chagrin, there's a lot of getting questions in the grocery store, and getting questions while eating pizza, and getting questions walking down the street, which is totally fine. But it is quite a commitment. I'll be quite honest with you, it is actually more than I thought it was going to be. I mean, I knew it was going to be a lot, but it's actually been beyond that, just on the time. Now, I'm also interested in trying to do a really good job and provide good service to the folks that voted for me. And so I guess if you're not interested in that, you could make it a very easy job, but that's not the way that I want to do it.
Okay. Now I understand that each council person is on 3 different committees.
Correct.
Now how is that done? Who decides what committee you're going to be on? And do you have any choice in those elections?
I don't really have choice.
Really?
So we elect separately a president of city council. Many other legislative or elected bodies, they would elect one of the members of that body to serve as the president, but we elect our president as like an 8th member. They don't vote. They only do the administrative and organizational duties of council. And the president sets the committees for the members.
That's how it works.
Right. And I guess we can make suggestions to the president about maybe what we would like or maybe what we might be good at, but there's no guarantee that he or she is going to follow through with your request.
Okay. So can you even express your opinion of what committees you want to be on?
Sure. Yeah, sure. But again, it's totally up to their prerogative to put you on the committees that they're
So what 3 committees are you on?
I am the chair of the Water, Sewer, and Special Utilities Committee. I'm on the Finance Committee. I'm on the Police and Fire Committee, and I'm also on the Audit Committee.
Wow. Okay, well, since you're on the Water and Sewer Committee, and you're the chairman, and there's this big project,
Right?
would you describe what that project is, how long it's going to take,
Sure.
why it's needed,
Sure.
and what the advantages are to have that project in Marietta?
Sure. So the city of Marietta, we have 2 water treatment plants. And when I say water treatment, I mean drinking water, not wastewater. So the project we're talking about here is a drinking water project. So we have 2 plants. One was built in 1934. One was built in 1975. Together, those plants use a lime and soda ash treatment process to give us drinking water. If I remember correctly, we have the ability to produce around 5.8 million gallons of water a day. Now, our demand, since our population has been shrinking and we lost some of our industrial customers, we don't have that much demand for water. And so these plants, again, they're both old, one of which is almost 100 years old. And obviously they have a lot of processes that need repairs. And so it's just like anything in our lives. At what point do you stop repairing it and just get a new one, right? And so we entered this space with the water treatment plant probably in 2016 or 17, where we were spending $1 million at a time doing repairs to various processes. And so we started the process then, and that was long before I was on city council, of investigating what kind of plant would be best for us. And so what we settled on after years of study and engineering is a reverse osmosis filtration system, which is a more advanced water filtration process that is more effective against like the emerging contaminants, PFAS, the forever chemicals, and the other things that you hear about. the process we have now is not super effective against those. The new plant will be much more effective against those. We're underway we just put that project out for bid. The base bid cost is around $30 million. It's going to take about 2 years to do construction on this project. During that time, we will tear down the 1975 plant and we'll operate the city off of the 1934 plant while the new plant is constructed. Once the new plant's constructed, we'll demolish the old one and then we'll just be running solely off the new reverse osmosis plant. So, long story short, that's how we got to where we are with a new water treatment project.
I understand to have I'll call him a supervisor of that sort of plant.
Right.
It is very difficult to find someone to fulfill that position.
Correct.
I know that you've given the present person a year's extension,
right,
so he doesn't retire.
Correct.
How difficult will it be, if it's not impossible, to find someone to take its place?
Well, it's really hard, and it's not just a Marietta problem. It's kind of a national problem of qualified water and wastewater chemical operators. So, water and wastewater treatment plants are classified into classes 1, 2, 3, and 4. The smaller communities are in the class 1 and 2. We're a class 3. A class 4 would be like Cleveland or like Columbus, but still, a class 3 water system means that we have to have a certified superintendent that provides 40 hours a week of contact service to the system. That means overseeing testing, overseeing the chemical treatment, overseeing all the operations of the plant. Smaller communities can get away with sharing operators between communities. So, for example, I know that the village of Racine, in Meigs County, and the village of Middleport, and perhaps the village of Pomeroy, they all share one operator because they're a class 1 or 2. They don't have to have 40 solid hours a week of service, so they are able to have an operator that can go between those plants and do the testing that they need. Unfortunately, we can't do that because we're too big.
So 12,000 people is too big. That's a level 3.
It goes by the number of connections.
Oh, number of connections.
Right, and I think 10,000 connections is the magical number for class 3, I think. But the superintendent we do have, he's been there for 40 years. He's ready to retire. We knew that a year ago. The class 3 and 4 water operator certifications are really hard to get. There's testing, and then you have to work with someone who has those certifications for a couple years as part of your certification. And so really the way it works best is to find someone inside your staff that's already maybe a class 1 or class 2 and get them to certify for class 3 or beyond if you need it. And we do have a couple class 2 operators, but I don't know that they're excited or motivated to get the class 3 license because it takes so long. And so we've been trying to attract one and we haven't been able to do that. And so to your point, we did offer our operator a stipend to stay another year. Because if we don't have this operator, we can be fined up to $10,000 a day if we're out of compliance with EPA regulations when it comes to operation.
Wow. Well, that's a staggering amount of money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you find a replacement.
I certainly do too.
Okay. What is your major concern about Marietta, or maybe 2 or 3? And what are, and how do you let people express their concerns to you?
Sure. So I think my biggest concern is we've got a very static revenue budget and we've got a growing expense budget. And I think that's true for any community or any household in the world. And so we're constantly struggling with how do we provide all the services that citizens demand and all the things that folks have come to expect on a budget of $13 million. And that's a dance. It's really hard. So I spend a lot of time thinking and working on that. So making sure that we provide those services at the levels we hope to with the resources we have. Obviously there are utility concerns. I'm really happy that we're doing the water project because I know that's a concern for a lot of other communities. We don't want to be like Jackson, Mississippi or Flint, Michigan. So obviously there are those types of things, and we're nowhere near that. But those utility concerns are also, very pressing as well because that's kind of a never-ending escalation of costs and responsibilities as well. So not only are we trying to maintain the personnel and all those services, but all the stuff that's out there, roads, bridges, water and sewer, all those things. So I'm just concerned that we have all the resources we need to keep all those things going at the level we'd like.
Now, I knew at one time you were holding a meeting at a local church.
Yep.
And I went to 2 of those meetings,
Yep.
and the attendance was abysmal.
Sure.
And I was very disappointed in the lack of citizen involvement.
Sure.
Are you going to do that again?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe when you're looking for re-election, or
Oh, yeah.
when?
Yeah, and I'll keep doing those anyway, regardless of election, because I think it's good to talk with folks and let folks ask their questions. You know, I've learned over a long time of public service that you're going to reach the people that want to be reached. If you're beating yourself up trying to reach everybody, you're setting yourself up for failure, no matter how hard you try. There are just some folks out there who aren't interested or are unable to come and participate at a level that maybe you or I would care about. So, but no, we're gonna keep having those meetings. They're interesting. I know that people out there have questions. Like I said, people stop me all the time with questions and comments. So I know there's questions and comments out there. So those meetings are a great opportunity to just keep doing that.
I plead guilty.
Yeah.
I stop you a lot.
Yeah, but it's no worries.
I ask you a lot of questions.
Yep.
How does a bill at City Council become law, become passed?
Sure.
And I know the mayor can veto it.
Yes.
I am assuming the council can override it.
Yes. Yeah, so I mean, we're a statutory city, so we don't run off a city charter. We're statutory, meaning we run by all the details and formalities of the Ohio Revised Code. So we run according to the Ohio Revised Code. So we basically have a mini version of the national government, if you will. So on city council, somebody has an idea or has a project or a concept that comes first to whichever is the most relevant committee. And in that committee, that's where we can have the long debate, we can ask questions, we can review material. And then once the chairman of that committee is satisfied that there aren't any other questions or there isn't any other information needed, they can choose to then individually request legislation. So the chairman or chairwoman can do that, or 2 members of the committee, or any 3 members of council can request legislation. And so once that happens, it comes to the greater body of city council for the readings and the eventual vote, and then if the vote is successful, it becomes law.
Okay. What do you find to be the most productive use of your time on city council? What do you feel the most effective doing? And what have you found to be the most frustrating procedure or item that just doesn't seem to get better?
So the best use of my time is probably is those committee meetings. So those are when we're doing the actual thinking, creating, ideating of whatever it is we're working on. City council, the actual meeting, to me is really just we're transacting the business. By the time something gets to our full council, to me, we've already asked all the hard questions. Typically, we've already reviewed all the information, we've done all of the homework, so in there we're really just there to cast our vote, whatever that is. Hopefully we've done a good job and we know where we stand by the time we come to that meeting. So committee meetings are the best because that's where the real kind of rubber meets the road work of what we do happens.
I'm curious. I've been to some of your council meetings and expressed my opinion about certain items.
Sure.
Does that make a difference in anybody's vote?
For sure.
It does?
Yeah, I think it does.
Okay.
Yeah, I take all those comments very seriously. I recognize that, it may not mean not that it doesn't mean anything. It's not a big deal for maybe you or I to go in there and raise a concern or ask a question in your 3 minutes, but I do recognize that that's nerve-wracking for people, and people get nervous about that, and so I definitely take those moments serious because for something to get to that point, it's got to be important to them. So I take that pretty seriously.
Well, I'm going to thank you and the other council members for passing the money for the tree commission. A job well done.
You're welcome. You're welcome. There was a lot of citizen feedback on that. So
yeah, there was. Can you tell us when the meetings take place for the public to come?
Sure. So our regular council meetings, when we're voting and doing all those things, those are on the first and third Thursday of every month, 7:30 p.m., room 10 at the Armory. And then in between the first and third Thursdays, we have our committee meetings. Now, typically they're Monday and Thursday, but quite honestly, they almost end up being almost every day. And we do schedule usually 1 week a month where we're not having any committee meetings, because it's very easy for us to have a meeting every single night. Just ask Danielle; she'll tell you. But yeah, so we do that. Everything that we do, the committee meetings and regular council meetings and any other meetings, are very prominently posted on the city's calendar on their website, and they're usually in the newspaper, and places like WTAP usually have them as well. So, but first and third Thursday, 7:30 at the Armory. That's the main meeting.
And what is your compensation for all your work?
I get paid $8,580 a year, and I also have access to the health benefits, and I'm in the public employment retirement system, and I think that's it.
So you're in PERS. Well, I would say your hourly wage is probably $1, maybe.
I laugh at those folks out there that like to say we're doing it for the money.
No,
right.
You're doing it for the love of the community.
I'm also surprised at how many people, when I got elected, thought that this was like my new full-time job. Like, they thought I was quitting my day job and I was going to do my city council all day, every day as a full-time job, which I'm not. I mean, it may feel like that because you're on the phone or answering messages, but yeah, but it's a less than part-time job.
Right, but it takes full-time time.
It takes full-time energy.
Yep. I have a final question for you. Then,
Sure.
If you have anything else you want to share, feel free to do so. But I know that the City Council has passed a new code enforcement program.
Sure.
I read it through the paper and I thought, oh, this looks pretty good. It's very methodical. It's step by step with different fines if things are not corrected in a timely fashion. The courts involved, etc., etc. Can you explain this new code enforcement and what the council people hope to achieve?
Sure. So I would say that what you're seeing is not really new per se, but it's a new emphasis on doing what we should have already been doing, perhaps. So code enforcement is, things that are related to health and safety of residents and citizens as they interact with the built environment, right? Our buildings safe, our structures safe, our premises and grounds around structures safe, all those types of things. And there is a very active program around trying to ensure that those properties within the city are safe for folks. And there are, quite honestly, a lot of properties that are blighted and derelict in many ways, and obviously are concerned to not only us but citizens. And the action taken against those properties has been lacking. And so there's a whole, and the process is basically this. A citizen can file a nuisance property complaint, and if a citizen, and that's a written form that goes to the code enforcement office, if a citizen isn't comfortable doing that, I as a city councilor could take that complaint and file the complaint in my hand and name if they don't feel comfortable saying, hey, I'm really unhappy about this property, or I'm really concerned about this property. They can share that concern with me, and then I can put it on paper and turn it in. Typically what happens then is the code inspector goes out and evaluates that property for whatever the concern might be, whether it's clutter, rubbish, structural concerns, broken glass, whatever it is. And they issue orders to the property owner to make whatever repairs or changes are needed. If that doesn't happen, there's it's like anything. There's a series of warnings that goes, and then at some point, basically you can be taken to court to compel you to do that action, whatever that is, including demolition, if that's the property is that bad. What I observe happens is we do all the code enforcement part, but we seem to lose energy at the go to court part. And so, and why that is, I don't know. It's again, we're issuing all the citations, we're issuing all the letters, we're making all the demands, and then when nothing happens, we never take the next step of producing the affidavit and putting that concern into court. And that's the problem where I've seen. And so hopefully what you've seen from this new emphasis on the code enforcement is taking those because there are some properties out there that have been supposed to be demolished within 120 days 5 years ago.
Oh.
Right. So if you see those properties with a red X in the window, that's a condemned property.
I did not know that.
And so some of these properties have been, moved for action, including demolition, within 120 days. And some of those properties have been in that state for 4 or 5 years. And the city councilors and residents in those areas, rightfully so, very angry that nothing has ever happened after we went through all those steps. And it's just because we never do the legal part. Mm-hmm. So what you've seen is taking those, I think it's top 5 or 6, like most egregious, out-of-date properties, and bringing the focus back to those and trying to move those through the process, including the court process, to get those remedied, whatever the remedy is.
Wow. Well, I hope that it comes to pass.
Same.
It's way overdue.
Yeah, I've been surprised at how of interest the blight property concern is, even in this ward. I don't, just off on the surface, I don't consider blight properties to be a top concern here. I know we have a few, but compared to other parts of the city, which have a lot, I'm always surprised at how many comments and questions I get about blight properties.
I guess because no matter where you go into town, there's so many to look at.
Sure.
And there's enough on every street that everybody's concerned about that issue.
That's fair.
Is there anything that you'd like to share that I did not ask you about?
It's been, so this experience has been really good. It's been challenging. I do recognize that Appalachian, Ohio, and a lot of rural communities, a lot of these positions go unfilled. Most city council positions go unfilled. Mayors will step in for a temporary term of office, and then they're the mayor for the next 30 years because nobody else runs. So I hope that other people do find the time, energy, and interest to participate in the ways that they can, and if they can stand to be part of it, be part of it. It's rewarding, it's interesting. I dare say it's fun, sometimes. I mean, it's challenging, but it's rewarding, and I don't know, I hope folks can appreciate the work that goes into it.
One last question. What's the most astonishing thing you found out or learned about your position on council that you were not prepared for?
And I don't mean this in always in a terrible way, but just the volume of lawsuits. It feels like everybody has a concern with the city, and therefore they're just going to sue the city. And I spent my first, let's say, month on council just getting up to date on the various lawsuits. And so I had no idea.
Wow.
And the same was true when I worked in the public realm in the past. I mean, it seemed like we were inevitably being sued by an employee or somebody, and I underestimate the volume of public records requests and all those types of things that come to a local government. It's astounding.
Wow. Well, I thank you very much, Councilman Allphin, for your time, your talents, your commitment to the city of Marietta, Ohio. And I love you as a neighbor.
Well, thank you very much.
To form a more perfect union, we wrote a constitution and a bill of rights for life and liberty. In democracy, we carry responsibilities. In democracy, we need everyone to see that our democracy is counting on you.